Today we are doing Hellblade Senua Sacrifice review. Welcome, and then I want an intro like bana 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 bana.
Game review, game review, game review, game review, game review.
Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to do a Hellblade review, which was actually my first recorded Let's Play on this channel. So it holds a special place in my heart for robbing me of my YouTube Let's Play virginity. If you'd like to watch my full playthrough of this game, you may watch it here, but viewer beware. These were my first videos, and there are some cringy moments in there that I'm not proud of. But here we are. We're doing this, and we're having a good time. And just so you know, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't played the game, now would be the time to leave. About Hellblade Senua Sacrifice. Hellblade Senua... Should I do this in accent? Hellblade Senua Sacrifice is a 2017 action-adventure game developed and published by the British video game development studio Ninja Theory, because theories revolve around ninjas, you know. Yes, I stole that right off of Wikipedia, but we don't need to go there. Hellblade Senua Sacrifice is a game about a woman suffering from psychosis, which she refers to as darkness, or her quote-unquote curse. The plot focuses on her saving her love Dillian's lost soul from the Norse afterlife, Helheim. She does so by undergoing a series of challenges, and finds that she must defeat the gods Surt of fire and Violating of magic. She then battles the underground guard dog. She then battles the underground dog. She then battles the underworld's guard dog in order to reach the god Hela to bargain for Dillian's soul. So right off the bat, we are thrown into this fictional fantasy world, or so we think. Fuck, I lost where I was reading. As the story unfolds, we learn more and more about this darkness, like literally. Since we as the player get to personally experience this darkness in the form of voices that serve as noise clutter to our minds as we play through this game. No! The voices are discouraging, menacing, and bullying throughout. Sorry. We also learn the supposed root of her darkness, which is depicted as a curse that originally came from Senua's mother. Her father, Zimbal, was an evil man who executed her mother in an attempt to remove this curse and later abused Senua after discovering she also had it. Senua then meets Dillian, who becomes the only positive figure in her life. Dillian was the only person that accepted Senua despite her darkness. Cue in the aww. She experienced love for the first time, and it's this love that she chases violently and tragically throughout this story. Senua ends up moving with Dillian to his village, and due to dead bodies contaminating the water source there, what were they thinking? Let me put a dead limb, a rotting freaking corpse into my water source. Amazing grace, how sweet. Just a moment of silence for the dead. Senua attributes this to her curse and blames herself for what's happened. She then condemns herself to living in the wilderness alone to atone for the curse that killed the villagers. When she returns to the village, however, she discovers that a Viking raid had taken place and finds Dillian's brutally murdered and strung up corpse there. This sends Senua into a spiraling grief that leads us to Helheim, where we are meant to bargain with Hela for Dillian's soul. This is where our gameplay begins, and Senua's futile and torturous journey ensues. Dun dun dun! With all that said, let's dive into reviewing this game. It's a preview for my next game recording. It starts with, ends with us. Us, that's right. Okay, I'll try to be serious now. I'll never be serious, but storytelling. And for a visual reference to be pleasing to your eyeballs, here are the topics that will be covered in this video with regards to storytelling. I found the storytelling of this game to be of a completely different genre than I've ever personally experienced before in any game, or ever. This game, in and of itself, was an experience, not a playthrough. A tragic and heart-wrenching trip into the thoughts of a broken mind and a broken heart. There are many aspects of the storytelling that I'd like to cover, so I'll do my best to lay as much out as briefly as I can. Yeah, right. Like, when have I ever been able to do that? Wow, I wrote a lot. What a loser. The voices! The first thing we notice as we enter into this game in the world of Senua are the many voices that litter Senua's mind. Commenting on the surroundings, narrating what she's doing, mentioning aspects of her past sometimes without context.
Did you see her? That was her mother, Galina.
Judging her, bullying her, cheering for her at times, but mostly they're just there to say negative things. Huh?
Whatever's left of him, they will never let him go.
I'm not gonna let him rot here!
Mother doesn't. Where is he? It's just another trick. Don't. Stupid girl! Where is she? She's gone.
At first you aren't too bothered by them, but as the game progresses, you can't help but find yourself increasingly annoyed by them. What plagues Senua also plagues you as the player.
Just up there. Listen to us. Sit. Shall we tell her where to go? Shall we? Does she know which way to look?
Up the ladder
Does she know
or into that hole?
She's a... Oh, isn't she? So clever. Did you miss us? Oh, she did. She did. Go up into the mountain.
I hate them so much. They don't ever shut their mouths. They just bitch and whine and fucking fuss, and they're just bullies. They're bullies!
How will she get to it? Fire. She has to go towards it.
She
won't make it through the darkness again. She's too weak.
Shut
She has to make
And this was done extraordinarily well, with voices looping in one side of your headset into the other. So immediately the tone is set. We as the player are surrounded in a net of varying voices. And if you're wearing headphones, the experience may feel a little too real at times, and start hacking away at your own self-esteem as the player.
Is this what hell is? A world shaped by Senua's nightmares.
That's crazy.
Maybe that's why people feared seeing the world through her eyes. Because if you believe that Senua's reality is twisted, you must accept that yours might be too.
You failed the gods. You're pathetic. Rotten. Cursed. What were you thinking? Did you really think you could win? How stupid can you be?
so stupid.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone hates her. She's cursed.
The shadow.
So weird.
Look at you. A warrior. Worthless. Weak. Pathetic. Go on. Feel sorry for yourself, because there is no one left to do that for you.
The game is set up in such a way to feel like you're experiencing a constant set of ordeals that you must survive and overcome in order to progress, and reach the goal that Senua has set for us, which is to redeem Dillian's soul from the afterlife. These ordeals gradually grow in difficulty, both mentally and physically. The puzzles get harder, and so do the fights. With each passing battle, you as the player find yourself growing increasingly fatigued and outnumbered by the enemies set before you. I cannot move! I can't move! Ah! Fucking! And by what you're putting yourself through to achieve this goal. It's honestly not like anything I've ever experienced before. Because instead of being rewarded, we were just thrown into deeper pits of despair. Every seeming victory was no victory at all, but a steeper descent into Senua's broken sense of reality. Each action began feeling more futile than the last. You'll find yourself questioning Senua's sacrifices. You'll find yourself questioning Senua's motivation. Is what she's trying to achieve real? Is Dillian's soul truly trapped in this place? And if it isn't, where is this journey taking us? All we know is that this is something Senua is willing to die for. And as you grow to love this character, any further progression through the story becomes disheartening, because you may just be traveling through a glorified suicide mission. The value she's set for herself in this journey is evident. She has no value for herself. By the end of this game, you find yourself truly ready to be done. It starts to feel like a battle with no ending, and one you find to be completely empty and futile in the end. Because battling to your death was never the answer. Release and acceptance was. And what a beautiful ode to chronic mental illness that is. In the middle of these ordeals, we start getting glimpses into her past. It's through these visions of the past that we begin to see the breaks in Senua's capacity to stay in reality. This game has a great way of breaking your concept of interpreting what is real and what isn't, in that you actually can't, causing you to question your own sanity. And this was done brilliantly. I mean, you mean to tell me that I was tortured and suffered for hours on end, fighting through the depths of hell, and believing I was going to save somebody just to end up having it be an illusion? Son of a... I'm unstoppable. You get a glimpse of this if you pay attention to some details, where in one shot, Senua has her war makeup on, or a wound.
Wasn't her little scratch gone?
And in the next moments later, within the same scene, she does not.
How does she look? She had a big gash on her face last time. What is that hand mark on her?
You as the player lose your footing on what's real or what isn't. You know if you...
Have you ever had a dreams that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
You grow to feel increasingly unstable in your ability to grasp what parts of the game might be reality, or if any of it is, for that matter. This is a piece I just applaud the game for. This is a piece I just applaud the game for. The culmination of the voices and breaking the player's own capacity to determine what's real around them really puts you in Senua's mind, and how terrifying a world this turns into. A world she's ready to die in. I can't imagine a more terrifying or tormenting thing. Baka. At the end of the game, it's pretty much officially established that what we're fighting for may not be real at all, but that our fight has been the battlefield of Senua's own mind. A battle against her never-ending demons. I personally had no idea this was the case during my playthrough, mind you, but in retrospect, and after a bit of research, this seems to most definitely be the case. The ending sequence is absolutely nuts. You fight for what feels like hours upon hours in an epic arena, against all the enemies you'd already defeated. During, it almost feels like this was Hela's doing, subjecting us to fight after fight, throwing an endless series of obstacles in our path to prevent us from reaching her. All the while, the voices in Senua's head encourage her to let go, Senua.
This is so exhausting.
Killing yourself.
And once we do, we lose and we die. I fought for way too long before realizing Senua was never meant to win that fight. Ouch. And cue on the tears. My tears anyway. The fight ends with Hela stabbing Senua, or us as the player, and throwing Dillian's severed head out of the opening of the tower that we were in, after pleading and begging for her to return his soul to us.
I'll be a slave for you. I'll fight with you at Ragnarok. If you release him.
As Hela approaches the opening of the tower, we see that Hela actually has a striking resemblance to Senua. We watch Hela casually dispose of the thing we broke our fingers trying to achieve after about 10 hours of grueling gameplay, with each memory egging us on, building a connection to all that Senua's lost in Dillian. It's actually truthfully one of the most tragic endings to a game I've ever played. Watching that head fall off that cliff was devastating. The point of view shot pans and turns around to reveal that it was not Hela who threw Dillian's head over. I'm surprised my skull didn't crack open at this point, like an egg in that moment, revealing the tiny alien that operates my flesh suit. Needless to say, mind blown. There never was a way to get Dillian back. Sometimes mental illness is just that, a never-ending battle with your demons. She needed Hela, her demon, in order to let go of the thing she most loved. The moment she let go of the thing she most loved, it killed Hela, her demon. Or part of herself. The roles switched. It was now Senua on her feet and Hela on the ground. A great picture, depicting that it was her demon that helped her kill the thing that was killing her. The moment Hela drops Dillian's head off the cliff, her rot left her, and her arm was no longer black.
Wait. What is it? It feels... It's different. It feels...
Clinging to Dillian was the true darkness and rot that she was experiencing. The deeper she fell into this illusion, the further she sunk into her darkness. It takes courage to overcome yourself and your own mind. In retrospect, we see that Senua only had one enemy all along. The last time we see Dillian, he's telling Senua death isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to embrace. And in that embrace, the battle was won, somehow and yet not at all. Maybe the message was that there never was a reason to fight, but that the true battle was one of the mind. And in the end, her mental strife made her stronger. Just wow. There are obviously 1,000 ways to view this, but that was my personal takeaway. I wish I could have put it in better words. I could honestly talk about this story forever. This story is just very richly embellished with symbolism, and symbolism is like candy to me. I love it. I'm addicted to it. I'm obsessed with it. One of the more noteworthy ones would be when Senua's mother is being burnt at the stake and it casually transformed into her demon Hela, which I think is a pretty beautiful image of what her past traumas have created in her, a literal monster. Another noteworthy mention is the flayed bodies strung out across this game. I believe that this has a very striking resemblance to whatever she found at Dillian's village when she found that it had been pillaged by Vikings. And we see this imagery kind of strewn about all across this land that she's come to save Dillian's soul. But all of it is reminiscent of the very thing that brought her there, which is when Dillian's village was destroyed and the villagers were maimed and strung up and absolutely butchered. I just think that that was super interesting and really cool imagery. Another couple of images worth referencing are when Senua is talking or looking in the mirror and we hear her darkness speaking to her, only to find that it is Senua speaking to herself, mouthing the words that this evil voice is speaking. This is when we learn that Senua is potentially the true narrator of her darkness. This happens again right before the end sequence where a piece of herself kind of detaches and she's faced with herself, only to enter the battle arena, which I think is a great symbol of the fact that she is her battlefield, if that makes sense. I don't know. The thing about symbolism is that it is open to interpretation, and I love finding ways to just look at it and see what it might mean. I could dissect every piece of it, but for the sake of keeping time, we'll just leave it at that. This goes without saying, but I am a major fan of what Ninja Theory has chosen to explore in this game. I'm not sure if it's something that's ever been done before. Either way, I know it's something that's not done often enough. This game sheds new light on the difficulty, mental anguish, and distressing nature of psychosis. I have a deep-seated passion for this stuff. If you've watched any of my videos, I know it's something I've mentioned a lot. It cuts real deep, and I'm grateful and humbled to have the opportunity to have been put in the shoes of a character that suffers from this. I really, really am. Not that it is a perfect representation, but just that it exists to shed light, even a small one, on this is phenomenal. Is phenomenal to experience. Anywho, enough with the cheese, and onto the review of storytelling.
Trumpets!
My rating for storytelling is 19.5 out of 10.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, trumpets! Oh my god!
It would have been a 20, but I did find it hard to follow at times and didn't quite understand what was happening, seeing things from Senua's perspective. I wish I had had a bit more of a window into the insight of why things happened the way they did in this game. Perhaps that was the point, and if so, then props to them because they most definitely succeeded. I felt like a little bit of a ditz. I didn't know what was real or what wasn't, or why certain things were happening, or whatever. For me personally, it takes me a bit to process things. Like, it took me playing The Last of Us about 2 or 3 times to actually fully have the story absorbed and comprehend it. I don't know. I'm just weird. It takes me a while. I absorb things in small doses. We'll say that. Also, a 10 out of 10 for them choosing to represent mental illness and psychosis. Boop, beep, 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 boop, boop, beep, boop, boop. Topics. Weapons. You get to fight with 2 weapons in this game. The original sword you entered the game with, and then the god sword, which, disappointingly, added nothing, except for your ability to battle Hela, which is the final boss. Lots of effort and build-up, going through 5 ordeals for not enough give. I worked for that sword, I wanted that sword, I got that sword. It was a god sword, and it did nothing. Maybe it did unlock something, and I just didn't know. I don't think so, because I wasn't given instructions on how to, use my new sword, but anyway. Fighting mechanics were not my favorite. They weren't bad, but they weren't good. I just feel like there wasn't a lot of versatility or options given with battling, and I found myself wanting more from it. Another important thing to note is I actually quite often found myself getting stuck in places, and they would trap me in like a corner, and the camera would just completely fuck off, and I had no way of fighting things well. I'm trapped! I'm trapped! Oh my gosh, like I can't, it's hard when you're fighting because you can't control what you're looking at. It was actually a reason I died a few times, which was super, super frustrating. I feel like they could have done better with that. I don't know. It was just a little awkward. The settings and environment were great, though they were not at all interactive besides the puzzles, ledges, barred doors, and bridges. This made for some consistent repetitive animations across the map. They looked different, but the way to get through felt pretty much identical throughout the entirety of the game. This made for some mundane, repetitive gameplay at times. This is strictly speaking in gameplay terms, however. Visually, some of the environments were absolutely stunning, mesmerizing, incredible, and showed some real artistry. Like, holy crap. A lot of it was just amazing, especially the hell sequence and the end sequence. Those were probably one of the most epic scenes I've seen in a game yet. Only because it was dramatic. It was theater dramatic. It wasn't like gameplay dramatic, if that makes sense. It was just epic.
It's enough slices!
The puzzles were super fun. A lot of them actually were really enjoyable to do, though like I said previously, they did get a little bit repetitive throughout the game. Also, strictly speaking, there were some really difficult ones, like the Valravn section. There was just no way to tell if you'd already looked through the archways, and I'm particularly speaking of that giant area with like 50 archways where there was literally no way to freaking tell which ones you've already looked through. It took me so long to get through that segment, and I don't think it was good to make it that difficult. Granted, some people enjoy that. I do enjoy it too, but I mean, gosh, you gotta find a way to tell people that you've looked through this already. You don't need to look through it again. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. And actually, posting this video online, I've seen that actually a few people couldn't even get past some of the puzzles, and they just gave up on the game entirely, which is kind of not what you'd want. Lying is a sin. No way! No freaking way! The lie about permadeath. I could have done without that, personally. I feel so lied to. Though I understand the role it was meant to play.
The darkness is inside you and it will destroy you.
You're a liar! Senua was lied to by her father about being cursed. We also were lied to as the player, believing what we're told, just as Senua did. Very crafty, pretty great, but for a high anxiety person like myself, it made an already stressful game pretty unbearable. I am aware that this is a me thing, however, and not a game thing. But I personally, I did not appreciate being lied to. I don't like being lied to. So, boo! The battles felt particularly exhausting. I dodged! Let me fucking move! Just die already! This game. Did I do it? Did I do it? Did I do it? Ah! Fucking!
She's not strong enough.
Enough said. Just kidding. I'm really emotionally unstable at the moment after fighting so many monsters. I think that was the goal, though. It took a lot to win some of these beasts, and it was just a lot of repetition. Like, there was not a lot of range for what could be done. You just constantly hacking at it like a freaking... You know, like, it felt like I was chopping down a tree that just wouldn't budge. That could kill me, like, whack me and stuff. I don't know. That was a weird analogy, but it was a lot of hitting and hitting and hitting, and it got boring and exhausting. I think that was the point, to feel Senua struggle to get to her love, though. I feel like it was meant to be exhausting, and if that's the case, then they did the right thing. Maybe make it more entertaining. I don't know if it was meant to be emotionally exhausting, because if that's the goal, then they succeeded. But it makes it for a one-time play thing where, okay, I experienced it, I didn't enjoy it enough to experience it again. I would not play that game a second time. I really started to feel exhausted towards the end of the game, like mentally, physically, everything. It was a lot. So rating for gameplay and setting, I would give it a 5 out of 10. I would have preferred less interactions with those wooden-headed stag creatures. There were just too many of them around every corner. I craved more diversity in this sense of the villains I was fighting against. I feel like they could have switched things up and kept us more on our toes. It got to a point where it was the same cycle of events. Fight people, solve a puzzle, fight people, solve a puzzle, solve a puzzle. And then there were the ordeals, fight a boss.
But not this time!
Solve a puzzle, fight people, and fight a boss. And after a while, it was old. And it just got so repetitive towards the end. I was like, when is this going to end? And which is not a feeling you want to have while playing a good game. This game serves more as an experience rather than an actual game, which made gameplay work a little differently. And I'm not sure I enjoyed that fully or as much as I wished I had. The end is near. Concluding thoughts. Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice is definitely a must-play, even if it's just once. It is so unique in its immersiveness. I really felt like I was in Senua's head the whole game. I fell in love with her. I felt her experiences. I felt her fear. I felt her doubt. I felt her grief. The ending just had me completely dumbfounded. I did not expect it. Would I recommend? Absolutely. Can't miss it. Overall rating of the game, entirely as a whole, general rating 7 out of 10. Lots of things dragged it down on drag it down. I need a drink of water. There were parts that were easily a 20 out of 10, and others that brought it back down a bit. This was a hard rating because it was genuinely an incredible concept, an incredible game. I absolutely admire it, and they did things flawlessly in some areas. But they also had genuine roadblocks for me in gameplay and setting. For how amazing the concept is, I wish I could have enjoyed it just a little more than I did. That's it for this review. I'd like to know what your thoughts were about this game, so feel free to comment your own review below, and I will be happy to read through them and tell you all how wrong you are and see what everybody thinks and whether you disagree or agree and whatever. Argue with me. That is it, and farewell. Bye. I forgot we gotta do an outro song. That's it for this review.